Yeah, that's so important, David, because it all starts in our mind. And if
Hmm.
we don't work with what's happening in our thoughts and our beliefs, then our outcome and our presence is certainly affected by that. So thank you, David, for joining us and for being willing to share your expertise. Today,
Absolutely.
during this workshop, we have specific objectives that we would like to cover. We're going to be looking at the knowledge and the understanding of what is the B.A.S.E system? What are the components? And what are some mental barriers that athletes, coaches, and individuals deal with? Then we're going to dive into the development of self-awareness. It is a skill that you can improve and you can get better at, as well as emotional regulation so that you can handle some of those difficulties. I know we've all dealt with emotions. We'll further dive into the strategy of the catch and release method and the focus, how to focus. And then our last use will be a tool, and we'll be providing the heart center reset and safety questioning. So enjoy. Thank you for joining us live. This will be recorded and it will be available on YouTube as well. So, who's
Okay.
this guy and why should you listen to David?
Oh yeah, who is this guy? Like I said before, I am a mindset coach for athletes, more specifically baseball players, but I've worked with tennis players, hockey players, golfers, dancers. Um, and I started out, yeah, I've been doing this for well over for 20 years. And my tagline, like I said, is I work with a person inside the player that, again, all you were a person before you ever stepped a foot on the playing field. And as you're listening to this, just think, well, I'm not an athlete or I don't play anymore. No, there's, as Dr. Delphina said earlier, the mindset triggers everything. Everything starts with a thought, with an image. So as we're talking throughout this workshop, take note where this might apply for you or how it can better help you in family, at work, relationships, whatever the case may be, how this impacts you. So, and my mission is simply um, to help you raise awareness, personal awareness. So when you're more aware, you can make more powerful, impacting, positive choices, more productive choices that work for you instead of against you. So you're in control. You're in the seat of power as opposed to I'm just a victim of circumstance. This is just how it turns out. And I'm like a rudderless ship. So this workshop is to get your oars in the water, get your rudder going in the direction that you want to go. So, and together we'll tackle these self-beliefs and doubts and fears that show up and to help you transform your life.
Yeah, so we're using David because he works specifically with athletes and coaches. And we think about like as an athlete, there's different sports, correct? And
Hmm.
so I think about when I was a little girl and I was 5 years old, I used to play softball. And I remember walking by myself from my house. It was back in the day where, safety wasn't as much of a concern as it is now. And I would walk to Maryland school because that's where I went to school. And I would walk by myself. And I remember thinking in my mind as a little girl, I'm going to do a grand slam because I thought that if I could just get my bat to hit that ball, that I can make a grand slam. And I would actually use my mind and that vision in my mind, that belief of seeing that happening. And I was a great softball player. I love softball. Thank goodness that now I understand that that mindset work actually translates in life. And that's what David's going to talk about because joy is journey, options, you choose. It is about your free will and your personal agency. David, tell us about your story, that bad game and that silent killer.
Oh, thanks for bringing that up, my bad game. Well, this is, yeah, where it really all started, where I got me into the mindset work is I had a bad game. I make a long story short, not that I want to revisit that, is I was a pitcher and my last name is Kloser, so it's not a stage name. So, but I came into relief and I got two quick outs in the last inning and I ended up walking batter after batter after batter after batter. And I was thinking, there's nothing wrong with me physically. My arm doesn't hurt,
Mhm,
so what's going on within me personally?
mhm.
And it just snowballed. And it was one of those things where the harder I tried, the worse it became. And I realized this has to be happening with other athletes. Just the whole mindset of talking ourselves into something, talking ourselves out of something. And that's part of the silent killer is for me in my personal example is the coach came out to talk to me, settle me down. And I put on a strong face, like, sure, I got this, no problem, I got this. But inside, I just wanted to crawl inside a hole and hide.
Hmm.
So, but I could not put on the face or make it seem like, get me out of here, coach, get me out. I can't handle it. So that was the silent killer is could I be honest enough? Could I be vulnerable enough to say, I I'm lost. And part of my thinking was I was trying to be too perfect. And
Mm.
that's what came up. And just that trying to figure it out on my own. And just think again, going back to how many people in your life, when you talk to them, hey, how's it going? Fine. It's okay. And I mostly work with teenagers and I
Mm.
work with athletes from the travel age level, 11, 12-year olds, all the way up to professional level. But that teenage era where you're getting grunts and groans as answers at home, what's really going on underneath all that? Why are they not talking? Why are they keeping things to themselves? Do they, feeling vulnerable? And I felt for me, I couldn't share things because if I did, that meant that I was weak. I couldn't handle it. I couldn't cut it. So I'm not going to let the coach know or let my teammates know, say, hey, I'm struggling here. So that's the silent killer is people are feeling all these things. Players, athletes are feeling all this, but do they have the courage and strength to speak up and share it with somebody?
Yeah, that's so powerful. You're speaking, David, of the hidden battle
Hmm.
within what you call it, the silent killer, right? But it's all what's happening in our mind. It's what the words that we're hearing, what we're speaking to ourselves. And there are things that we've heard, probably many people have heard. I've heard this multiple times, the idea of the imposter syndrome, the idea of I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not young enough, I'm not beautiful enough. And I can imagine, playing softball and thinking like I can't hit the ball hard enough, I'm not fast enough, I can't make it to first base, those different things because the words that we say to ourselves are internal and personalized. So when we think about these battles that happen within us, the fear of mistakes, you talked about the idea of perfectionism, wanting to do everything perfect. And if anybody knows that I don't have it all figured out, then I'm a failure and I failed.
Hmm.
And you were referencing specifically about being a parent. And nowadays, we went through a space the 3 years of that whole COVID. And under that COVID, there are studies about how individuals have changed in their inner dialogue because what we kept hearing was, I'm not safe. I'm not safe to be around others. And that has affected our younger generation. It's affected our society in general,
Hmm.
but they see some of these changes within schools and students, and that students are having to learn how to socialize, how to connect. And so you, as a mindset coach, you've discussed this idea of that silent killer, the hidden battles that every athlete faces. And to some degree, we're all an athlete in our life. We can choose to give up on life. We can choose to sit on the sidelines. That's our personal agency. And that's when someone like you, someone like me, individuals who support others that are in those moments of doubt, in those moments of
Hmm.
perfection, of fear, that's where some of that skill and that guidance comes in. So talk to us about raising self-awareness. Could we say that's a skill?
Yeah, I just also want to touch back with those things about the imposter syndrome and afraid of making a mistake and perfectionism. That's what I was talking about, those societal, conditional, environmental programming that we get before we ever became an athlete. You know, that the do's and don'ts, you should and shouldn't, and how that for me personally, how that shows up on the athletic field, and then help athletes work through that and then make that a bigger picture. Where else in their life does this show up? Where do I
Mm,
have to be perfect in school? I can't get a bad grade. I'm afraid to make a mistake, or I really don't think I belong in the honors class.
mm,
Or am I really good enough, worthy enough to have this job or even apply for this job or ask this person out? So that's part of the self-awareness, is getting back to checking in with yourself. How do I feel? Emotionally, and where are these things? Am I trying to be too perfect? I mean, taking my example as the game, I was trying to pitch too perfect. The silver lining, and I joke about this, is I was thinking about not giving the hitter anything good to hit. I succeeded because I walked everybody. I didn't give them a chance to swing the bat, so that's one of those things where I can laugh about it now. But in the moment, like I said, I just wanted to crawl in a hole and die. But the more you're self-aware, aware of yourself, what makes you tick, you become more empowered. So it's what sets you off, what triggers you, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, what your boundaries are. And then you get to look at a bigger picture. Again, for me, with working with athletes, it's this specific incident right now. I'm afraid this guy seems like he's throwing a million miles an hour. I don't think I'm going to get a hit. I'm already making up a story. What's going to
mm.
happen? What I think is going to happen. And I haven't even stepped in the batter's box. So again, as you, the listener, what are some of the stories that you might be telling yourself of like how it's going to work out, how it's not going to work out because of I'm fill in the blank enough. I'm not fill in the blank enough. And that's raising that self-awareness of like, wait a minute, I'm telling myself a story. Is this really true? Oh, let me pause and think about that. Let me take that in. Is it really true? So to raise that self-awareness, that's what's important. Knowing yourself first and foremost.
Yeah, and refining your skill to be willing to be vulnerable enough to acknowledge and name what are the patterns, what are the triggers, what are things that you know set you off. And when you can be, for example, when I was younger, I had no fear of heights. I would go
Hmm.
hiking. I would go up and down stairs, no big deal. But now I'm in my mid 50s and I love to hike. But now I've noticed like I am hiking, looking around and looking down. And in my head, I have to tell myself, you're safe, girl. Let's go. But inside my mind, I'm thinking, oh, if I fall, if I get hurt, if I slip, like all this nonsense is
Mhm.
happening within my head, all these voices, and I have to stop that chatter. I have to put closure on that because if not, I'll start walking slower. I'll start walking more carefully, like, oh, be careful. And it will change my entire group. That's just one example of self-awareness of how I've changed because I believe it's because I've gotten older and I've gotten a fear inside of me that what if? That was something I didn't have when I'm younger. But now
Hmm.
I'm aware of this pattern. I've actually heard the voices in my head when I'm actually hiking. And so, because of that clear awareness, I know how to battle it and shut it down. But it wasn't until I recognized where are all of these thoughts coming from? What is causing this? And it was a deep innate fear that now I'm older, now I can get hurt. And once
Hmm.
I was willing to acknowledge that, be aware of it, I could call it out and change it. So, David, you talk about awareness, you talk about your thoughts. Let's talk about something when it comes to the lessons that you've learned as a mindset coach and dealing specifically with baseball players.
Yeah. Well, that's again this journey of getting into the mindset. What makes people tick? What makes athletes tick? How do these guys, you know, be the best in their field? And looking at again the bigger picture, because athletes with an athlete, professional, their playing days, or even in whatever sport, your playing days are going to stop at some point, whether it's the off season, whether it's an injury, or you end up retiring. So looking at the bigger picture, and again, as a
Whatever
kid,
sport, your playing days are going to stop at some point. What? Sorry,
can
there
help.
was a question in a comment in on the Facebook, and I was trying to look
Okay.
at it, but obviously not good because it started speaking. My
Okay.
apologies, David.
That's okay. I was hearing voices in my head. Talk about the stuff, the things we're hearing in our head.
Sorry, go
So
on.
again, it's more bigger picture. And as a kid, I wanted to be a Major League Baseball player. I wore the same number as my favorite player. I would practice my batting stance, emulate who they are. I would get out the box score and emulate these guys. So I figured, what about emulating if I wanted to be a pro ball player and I look up to these players, what about, and I'm emulating them, what about emulating their mindset? How do they handle adversity? How do they prepare for success? When they make an error in front of thousands of people, or they give up a home run in a crucial situation, how do they move beyond that? And these guys are the elite of the elite. They're the cream of the crop. They have gone through all the years of all the different levels and ranks and coaching experience of playing baseball. You think of somebody who's in rookie ball, for example, maybe 18, 19, 20 years old. They've probably been playing baseball half their life. So they've got a bunch of training to get to that place. So what wisdom could they impart back to me? And in a nutshell, they all said you need to have a strong foundation. You need to have a strong base. So I came up with this acronym, BASE, B-A-S-E. And the one theme that is prevalent even before having a strong base is having a strong focus. Is what
Mhm.
is it that you're focusing on? And again, the players talk about controlling what you can control and letting go, not worrying about the things that you cannot control. And I
Mhm.
have found one of the main things, the important things that you can control is your focus. And that's again the overriding theme. If you look at me and my situation where I walked a bunch of batters, what was I focusing on? I was focusing on not giving the hitters anything good to hit.
Mm.
Afraid I was going to put the ball right down the middle and they were going to hit a home run. I was focusing on the things that I didn't want to have. I didn't want to
Mhm.
let my teammates down. I didn't want to let the coach down. I didn't want to be that guy who lost the game. So I was focusing on being perfect instead of just going out and playing.
Mhm. That sounds like a lot of pressure. Lots of
Oh yeah.
pressure. Oh my goodness. You know what I really, really appreciate, David, is that you honored the lived experience of over 300 MLB players. You wrote this book based on conversations. And so you have lived experience of all these athletes that you're now sharing with us, which has created the B.A.S.E Foundation. That's so powerful because sometimes we get out here and we say, you should, and we don't want to be shooting on nobody. We don't want to be shooting on nobody. And what you've done is you've honored what individuals have to say in their own mindset and what they worked through. Because if there's something I do know, there is human foundations, there are human experiences, and there's patterns to humans. And you've addressed the importance of the strongest foundation of a powerful individual is their mindset.
Mhm.
It's their mental fortitude and how they handle challenges and difficulties.
And within that mindset is the focus.
Mhm.
Where does one put their focus? Is the focus on solution? Is the focus on the problem?
Mhm.
Is it focused on the past? Is it focused on the future? Is it focused in the moment, in the present moment? There's an old saying where focus goes, energy flows.
We're
So again, in
focused.
my situation, I was focusing on what I didn't want. I didn't want to let the team down. I didn't want to, give the guy anything good to hit. So I was struggling and just kept on digging myself deeper and deeper into a hole. So it's that back to self-awareness. If I'm aware of what I'm focusing on, wait a minute, I'm focusing on the cup half empty instead of the cup half full. What is it that I want? I want to get these guys out. Focus on why am I here? I'm here to do a job. I'm here to pitch. I'm here to um, relate to others. I'm here to focus on my studying. I'm here to be present to my partner, whatever the case may be, as opposed to thinking about not being in the moment, focusing on things that aren't going to be productive or help me or the be solution oriented.
Yeah. When I was going through my hypnotherapy training and we were learning about the subconscious mind and the power of the subconscious mind does, if you're telling it like, don't hit the rock, don't hit the rock, don't hit the rock, you hit the rock
Yeah.
because
Yep.
you're focusing on the rock. And I know that 100% to be true. I remember when I was mountain biking, I was out in Sedona, Arizona, and I had my bike and I was, on the track. Well, not the track, but the mountain. I was out there on the mountain and I was telling myself, like, don't hit the rock. Because, in the stream, there's a whole bunch of little rocks in there. And you've got to keep, when you're mountain bike riding, you've got to keep you got to focus, but not only focus, you have to like keep your balance because the terrain
Mm.
is different. It's not a sleek thing, right? And I remember telling myself, don't hit the rock, don't hit the rock, because there were all these loose rocks and thinking in my head, like, I'm gonna fall, I don't want to fall. And sure enough, this girl hit the rock.
Mm.
And I was training my mind to hit the rock. So when we think about what are we focusing on? So when we talk about athletes, when we talk about parenting, when we talk about entrepreneurship, when we talk about your career, your work, what are you saying to yourself? Are you saying to yourself, ugh, another Monday? I gotta
Hmm.
get out of bed. Drury. Like, if you're telling yourself that, you're creating
And
what it's gonna be like.
a lot of that too is those thoughts and those words that we say to ourselves create an energy. Like you said, oh, it's Monday. So all of a sudden it affects my body language. My shoulders go down, my head comes down.
Mhm.
There's dread, there's scuffling and shuffling of the feet. Are you excited to go to work? Are you excited to, start the day? And just even within that shift, it comes from, you know, what is it that you want? Not only so much that, but again, with baseball, a lot of it is results oriented of what are you getting? So I'm
Mhm.
more self-focused as opposed to what can you be giving? Another way of looking at it instead of I got to go to work versus I get to go to work. Just
Yeah.
in the shift of those two words, how does that shift your energy? I
Like,
got to, whatever, think about this. I mean, in ways you're listening, I got to fill in the blank versus I get to. And just
mhm.
notice the difference. Again, being self-aware. How does that shift your energy? Is there a little bit of more of an uplifting? Do you feel lighter just in those two sayings? And then just recognize the difference. I mean, it's huge.
Yeah, I totally agree with you wholeheartedly. I have a whole thing on the power of yet and limiting belief systems. So I can't do that. Instead of saying I can't do that, I can't do that yet. And so when I think about when I'm getting on the treadmill and here I am in my midlife, and in midlife, your hormones change, your body change, my body has changed, my hormones have changed. After 40 years old, you start losing muscle mass. It is a part of the life. And because it's part of the life cycle, I have the opportunity, every individual has the opportunity to address the life cycle with specific strategies. So when I'm on the treadmill and I'm walking on there, I know I may not be running a mile yet. But if I am consistent and I continue to be on the treadmill and I incrementally increase the rate that I'm walking, I will move up and do better. So when we talk about the power of focus, we've talked about focusing on solutions. We've talked about focusing on what you want, not what you do not want, which means you have to know what you want, and focusing on moving forward, not being stuck. So let's talk about, David, when you dive into your foundation of base and what that means. Tell us a little bit about your challenge.
Well, I was going to say we can jump right into the B.A.S.E Foundation, and again, the overriding theme that we've covered so far is focus. So focus is first and foremost. If you have a base foundation, imagine like a building sitting on the ground. Well, the
Hmm.
ground in and of itself is the focus.
Hmm.
That's kind of the first and foremost of that building block.
Hmm.
And that, and we've talked about the focus of what are you thinking? What are the thoughts that are going through your head? And beliefs, beliefs is the B in the B.A.S.E Foundation. Beliefs are basically just thoughts that you keep on saying to yourself over and over and over and over again till they become your self-belief. I'm not talking about a religious belief, but it's the thoughts that you think about constantly. And there's studies just saying that we think anywhere from 60,000 to 80,000 thoughts a day. And majority of those thoughts are the same thoughts that we thought yesterday and the day
Mm.
before and the
Mm.
day before. So you're just repeating a habit of, again, I hate work, I dread work, my boss, whoever. I mean, those cup half empty type of feelings. So it turns into a belief.
Hmm.
And again, so where's the focus on that? So it's recognizing where are your beliefs? And yeah, like you said, same thoughts are about 95% of your thoughts are the same thing. And majority of those thoughts that we think over and over again are negative. How many are you
Yeah.
thinking? And I think again, it goes back to what I said initially, a societal conditioning of, well, you can't talk, I don't know if you can hear that. You can't brag about yourself, can't talk, don't talk about yourself because people are gonna, that's a conditioning, as opposed to why can't I say I'm good at this or I excel at this or this is my area of expertise, you
Yeah,
know?
and you're diving in, David, to some cultural things. You're as a little girl being, when I was raised, we do not blow our own horn because if you do that, it is not good. And learning that. Like,
Mhm.
think about, and I'm talking to you out there, my beautiful, lovely warrior women out there. I'm talking to you. How many times did you hear yourself say, I am beautiful? And you're looking at yourself in the mirror and you're seeing yourself and you see that you are strong and you see that you are beautiful. How often do you actually do that? How often do you actually acknowledge the strengths, the talents, and the gifts that you have? And not only that, David, how do we handle when someone acknowledges and recognizes and sees us? Where,
Mhm.
I've had experience where someone will say, Dr. Joy, thank you. You're so articulate and understanding and loving. And I really appreciate how you see me and you hear me. Like, how can I handle that acknowledgement and that truth coming from that person? Those things are challenging. So if we're talking that 80% of our mind and the thoughts that are going through are negative and they're the same thoughts, how do we handle those thoughts that become beliefs? Because if we do not believe that we are beautiful, that we are talented, that we are gifted, and that we have value, that shows up in our outcomes and our actions and who we are because our internal
Mhm.
beliefs and our thoughts about who we are matter and they affect our outcome, which is our actionable behaviors.
That's yeah, 100% I agree. It's like if the repetitive thoughts are I'm not good enough. I've got to be perfect. Again, going back to my example, I got to get it right. I'll never get it right. And what happens if I do get it right? If I
Mm.
am beautiful, why am I trying so hard to please and do these other things? It's all for love.
Hmm.
If I would have got the batter out, I would have been accepted by my teammates. My coach would have thought better of me. He can
Hmm.
come through. Look at me. And there was times too. I remember when I was in high school too. I was the MVP of the team, and we're at the banquet. And a lot of times, I would disregard that because I would feel uncomfortable for the praise I was getting. Yet, so it's a stalemate. You think about it. I want these things. I want to look beautiful. I want to excel, but I can't. There's a societal thing telling me I can't say this. So I want this, but I'm pulled back. I want to go forward, but I'm pulled back because I don't want to appear. like a jerk or better than anybody else or that I'm a know-it-all. And so it again, it goes back to that focus of can I really step into that awareness of what it is that I truly want? And do I have the courage then to keep moving forward in that path despite my own self of the conditioning of telling me that I'm not good enough? And basically I'm just running my own tapes. So part of and wanting those things is is your acceptance. This is the A. A is an action and acceptance. But first and foremost, you want to feel the reason why we do all these things is to feel loved and accepted. So where do I accept myself? And I put in there too, one of these things, before you can take an action, you have to accept yourself. Or do you accept yourself? Do you make excuses? Do you accept what is? What's the current situation? Again, in my situation, the baseball one, I was walking batter after batter after batter. I was in denial. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. Instead of, okay, wait a minute. Here's the situation. What am I aware right now? What's present? Okay, what do I want as opposed to no, what do I don't want to do? And so when I focus on shifting my energy of what I want, my energy shifts, my action shifts. So if I'm coming from a place of not wanting something, my actions are going to have a certain energy behind it. It's do I want to move towards something or am I moving away from something? Some of the kids I work with, I'll say, they're sitting in a chair and I say, walk away from the chair. And they get up and they go, say, north. Okay, great. You are away from the chair. Now sit back in the chair. And I said, now walk toward the window. And they
Mm.
realized, wow, the door was opposite direction of the window. So yeah, I did get away from the chair, but was I moving in the right direction? I wasn't clear on the direction that I wanted to move toward. I was more, and maybe sometimes that's what you need to do first and foremost is get away from something. So it's to move, take that action.
Yeah.
But it's also then to even hone that more specifically, what am I moving toward? Where's my action toward? Okay, now that's more specific, and I've got more energy behind that, and I've got more intention and more purpose behind that, moving towards something.
Yeah. So you've talked about belief. What are your beliefs? What are your thoughts? And then moving on to A, which is action and acceptance. And I really appreciate that you talk about in the present moment, which
Mhm.
means that you're honoring imperfection. We are not perfect and we come with imperfection, and that's okay. We can still choose to do our best as we are in that moment. And one thing that I really love is you talk about the focus. And sometimes to know what we want, we have to be willing to articulate what we do not want. And if we can
Mhm.
articulate what we do not want, it can help us understand what we do want. Because sometimes, David, people have trouble identifying what do I want? They don't know what they want. They know what they don't want, but they don't know what they do want. And because they can't articulate what they do want, they can't focus on it because all they know is what they don't want. Don't hit the rock. Don't hit the rock. Don't hit the rock, right? But what do I want? I want to have a smooth ride. I want to drive, pedal fast. I want to feel the breeze on my face. Like, what do you want?
And
And so that's important in this foundation.
I would say even within that too, of like, not hitting like don't what I don't want. And why is that? Why,
Mm.
again, for me, don't walk the batter, don't give them anything good to hit. Why? Well, if I dig deep enough, it's because I want to be successful. I want to appear successful. I want to be the guy for my teammates. I want to be the guy that my coach can trust, that I can come through. And again, so what does that mean if I come through, if my teammates look up to me? I'm loved, I'm loved, and I'm accepted. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, so really, that's really what I want. I just want to be loved and accepted and belong. But first and foremost, can I do that, think that, and feel that about myself? Because if I can't think and feel that about myself, then how can I expect other people to do that? Like I said, I want to be the best baseball player. But as I'm at the awards banquet and the coach is talking about how great I did, what a great season I am, but in the back of my mind, I'm denying that.
Mm.
I'm sending out a conflicting message. Well, do
Mm.
I really want that or do I not want that? why am I, because part of me, the reason why I was deflecting it was I wanted to appear more accepting to my friends, my peers. Yeah, that's the coach. He's just talking. That's his job. He's supposed to fluff everybody up. But my peers, my friends, they know the real me, and I don't want to be above them. That was my own personal experience of that. So
Yeah.
I want to be loved and accepted by my friends because those are the ones I see day in and day out.
Yeah, yeah, you're talking about internally that sense of self-worth. What was coming to my mind
Mhm.
because we're talking about beliefs, because we're talking about focusing, what was coming to my mind is, people that struggle with money.
Mm,
And what I was thinking about were the two thought patterns, okay? The one pattern of abundance and the one pattern of scarcity. And so the pattern of abundance is money comes easily, frequently, and often. I, I'm always taken care of. And the scarcity, money doesn't grow on trees. The idea of the polarity of those two
mm,
things, those two thoughts. So when you talk about your focus, your thoughts, what are your beliefs? And we're talking specifically about athletes, or we're talking about parenting, or we're talking about career transition, whatever it is, it's understanding the dichotomy, the polarity. What are your thoughts? Because we can have more than one thought. What are you focusing on? Is it what you want
mhm.
or is it what you do not want? And how do you handle that? How do you make changes in your mindset, in your thoughts, in what you're believing?
And some of that is getting into the energy of it. Like I said, money comes to me easily and effortlessly. And then the next thought would be, well, how? How do I do that? I don't have the capabilities. I don't know the right people. I don't have the connections. So all of a sudden, I just short circuited that. And now that's where that stalemate comes in, that tug of war. It's like, but Dad, that's what I want. I want to have that money. I want to have that abundance. I want to be the starter.
Mhm.
I want to be, the number one guy. But how am I going to do that? I'm not this, I'm not that. So I'm just, as much as I'm building myself up and what I'm aspiring to, all of a sudden I get into my head and then kind of getting off on a different topic, but the difference between your head and your heart is all this flourishing and blossoming and like the dreams and all the stuff that you want to do. And then the
Mhm.
head gets in there and say, how are you going to do that? Do you know the
Yeah.
right people? What about this? What about that? And that, I mean, a quick example was when I came up with the book where I interviewed all the major league ball players. It just came to me. I literally had this warm rush come through my body. And I was right next to my wife, and I said, I'm gonna interview all these players and Hall of Fame players, get all their wisdom. And she goes, Do you know any Major League Baseball players? And I said, no, but I'm not going to let that stop me. I was the
Mhm.
passion, my heart overrode anything of the logistics of, well, yeah, you're right. I don't. Oh, okay. Well, I'll just put that on the shelf and, that'll be what could have been, that sort of thing. So getting back
Mhm.
to, I wanted to touch a little bit with the action of where you're coming from. What's the underneath the focus of taking the action? And then sometimes it's better to not take action and just to again be in the moment of what is. There's an old saying of, well, don't just sit there, do something.
Mhm.
Well, flipping that on its head is don't just do something, sit there.
Mm.
Allow for, again, it's getting back to acceptance. Can you have the acceptance within yourself to like, wait a minute, what's really going on? Because if I'm going on the hamster wheel, when am I going to get a chance to stop and think, is this what I really want? Or have I just created a habit? Again, from a baseball term, I tell the clients I work with is sometimes you just got to step out of the batter's box, take a breath, and reassess. That's why in sports, a lot of times when the teams are taking over a game, the other team will call timeout. They'll break the momentum. They'll shift the energy. Okay, let's regroup here. We got to regroup and go over our game plan or maybe adjust, modify our game plan. But if we just keep on going and letting the game continue on, you're going to keep getting the same results. So stopping, taking inaction, pausing, taking a breath, and again, checking with yourself. What is that self-awareness? What can you focus on within that? What's really going on here? What's the bigger picture?
And so what
So,
I hear you saying is that it's important to pause and to listen. And so we started off this workshop and we talked about building the knowledge of what does B.A.S.E stand for? What is that actual acronym and what does it mean? And then we said we were going to look at the skill set and the development of self-awareness.
Hmm.
And now you've spoken to us of the importance of presence, pausing, and that there's power in inaction because it could potentially slow down the thought to understand. I used to think about when I was doing workshops and I would share the idea of, here's my problem. And my problem is right in front of my face. And
Mm.
because my problem's right in front of my face, I really can't see over it. I can't see under it. I can't see around it because it's right in front of my face. And so if I can take my problem and set it aside, it gives me an opportunity to see a different perspective, a different scope. And that's kind of what you talked about, not necessarily the idea of inaction, because even inaction is actually action. It's choosing to not engage. So for me, the problem, I'm choosing to put the problem on the side so that I can see something else. When you talked about, I said, money comes easily, frequently, and often. And then once that thought goes into the next thought, my next thought would open up to how. And
Hmm.
if I open it with how, but then I intercede with negative, when you talked about, problems and you said, when I shared with my wife that I was going to I wanted to interview athletes and she's like, but do you know any athletes? You're like, no, but that's not going to stop me because I know what I want to do and I'm going to figure it out because I'm open to hearing and receiving, right? So let's dive deeper into base. We understand B is your belief, A is action. What else do we got for us?
So within that inaction, like you said, it's an action, but it's a maybe more of a downshift of an inaction, getting you more present. So it's getting more staying in the moment. The S is staying present, staying in the moment. So when you have that opportunity to step out of the batter's box, step away, take a breath, have that coffee break or whatever it is, check in with yourself and how do you feel? With baseball being, in quotes here, a failure-oriented sport. You're successful, big bazillions of dollars if you're successful 30% of the time. And
Mm,
again, some of the clients I work with, some of the younger ones, I say, well, if you're lucky, you did 50% of the time. But if you
mm,
brought home a test with 50% on your report card, would your parents be happy about that? Probably
mhm,
not. Would you go see
mhm.
a doctor who's got a success rate of 30% or 50%? Kind of really puts it all in perspective.
Yeah.
So it's staying in the moment. How do you deal with the failure? How do you deal with what the moment is presenting right now? And
Mhm,
can you stay in the moment without going to the future, going to the past? Well, in the past, I struck out 5 times.
mhm,
Why is this gonna be any different? Well, I'm bringing the past up with me into this present moment. The
mhm,
past doesn't know. It's now a new moment. One of the ball players told me, it's like, I might have struck out 5 times before, but this plate, this is my first plate appearance. I'm 0 for 0 right now. I'm not 0 for 5. And then also if the past is dealing with regret, coulda, shoulda, woulda, I should have done it, kicking yourself, beating yourself
mhm,
up. Oh, I
mhm,
should have known better. Then if you're not in the moment, staying present, a lot of times the head will go to the future.
mhm,
Well, what if I do this? What if I don't? What happens? And again, I'm in my head about planning. And that's usually a lot of anxiety. Well, if this happens, then I got to do this. And then if that happens, I got to do that. And it's like, but you're missing what's happening. I think a lot of times I see this too with social media and the phone and all this other stuff. People are, my brother told me it's like you see people on vacation, they're clicking these pictures, these selfies, and they're all having a great time. And instead of enjoying where they're at, they're on vacation, they're texting back to their friends, and their friends are going, oh, I wish I was with, so and so on their vacation home. And the person at the vacation home says, texting the picture saying, oh, I wish I was with you hanging out, at the mall or whatever. It's like, but where are you right now? Where are you present to? Can you just stop and slow down and be present to what is?
Yeah.
And that is the challenge. And especially in a society, and I talked about earlier, is where it's go, go, go. and the sense of feeling I'm not enough. And
Mm-hmm.
if you can get to that place where the anxiety kicks in because I'm thinking about the future, the sky's falling, or worried about the past of, well, what's going to, who's to say the past doesn't repeat itself? If you can take that moment and just take a breath and just ask yourself the question, am I safe right now?
Mm-hmm.
Is all that other stuff just stuff that I'm creating the story within my head? What's really the truth right now? Am I truly safe right now? Do I have a roof over my head? Am I breathing? So that gets you another way of getting you present. Where are you that you can ask that question? Am I safe?
Yeah. And that's a base foundation. Psychologically, that's a base
Hmm.
foundation. When we think about in education, with a lot of my training, one of the trainings was Maslow's hierarchy. And for Maslow's hierarchy, in order for individuals to reach fulfillment, personal fulfillment, and their highest capacity, the base foundation is safety, feeling safe. Do I feel safe enough to express myself? Do I
Right.
feel safe enough to take risks? Do I feel safe enough to be who I genuinely am? And understanding that there could be persecution or judgment. Can I still be who I am and feel safe? And so when you talk about B as beliefs, A as actions, and S as staying present in the moment, that means we're not living in the past, we're not living in the future, but we're actually here in this moment. And when there is a struggle, asking ourselves, am I safe right now? And when you can ask yourself that, your physical response will help you show up in a different way.
That's raising that self-awareness and asking, getting back, being present. Am I safe right now?
Hmm.
Right now. So I'm not, is my head scrambling to the future? Is my head worried about the past? But wait a minute, what's happening right now? From a baseball perspective, players upset that the umpire made the wrong call in the first inning, but it's now the third or fourth inning. The game
Hmm.
is moving on, but you're living in the past of what happened, and that's affecting
Hmm.
how they're playing moving forward. So
Hmm.
part of that safety is having emotional control. And it's not so much stuffing down your emotions by, okay, I'm going to be in control of these. I'm not going to express myself or whatever. It was a saying I heard. It's like you can train your emotions or have your emotions train you. So again, it's not stuffing them down or denying your emotions. Again, my case, when I was pitching, I was stuffing my emotions down. I didn't want to let the coach know that I was panicking deep inside. Inside, if you had a picture of my stomach, I was doing backflips. But outside, I was trying to put this face on, like, sure, I got it, coach, no problem, no worries at all. I was keeping my emotions under control, but that wasn't the truth. And it isn't so much about suppressing them; it's about getting in touch with your emotions, accepting, going back to the A, accepting my emotions. I'm scared right now. I'm angry. I'm frustrated. I'm sad. I'm happy. And to have emotions just be emotions as opposed
Hmm.
to good emotions, bad emotions. It's the story we tell ourselves behind what those emotions be. Again, the conditioning. Don't cry. I'll give you something to cry about. You shouldn't
Hmm.
cry about that. You've got no reason to be upset. Why
Hmm.
are you sad? You got everything, all these things, but the emotions are true. So the issue is not that we don't feel emotions. Everybody feels emotions. It's whether we express them or not, or feel, like you said, feel safe enough to express the emotions, to get in touch with them, to
Yeah.
not think, I'm feeling these emotions are coming up. Is it okay for me to feel these emotions?
Hmm.
Because am I gonna, what are they gonna think about me if I all of a sudden just start crying?
Hmm. Yeah.
You know?
And what's really powerful to understand, David, is that emotion is energy in motion. And if emotion is energy in motion, and I am choosing to suppress it because I'm judging it, I will have a response to it. There will be a physical response, and that's where dis-ease comes. It's an ease that's not in alignment. That's why there's that dis-ease, right? So some ways that people handle emotion, whether it's elation or whether it's depression, whatever the gradient of the emotions are, people can handle them differently. Some people eat, to suppress their emotions. Some people sleep to manage their emotions. Some people, oh, do all kinds of things.
They
Whether
work extra hard. They drink. They take
they,
drugs. They put
yeah,
in extra
yeah,
time because that's what they know. Yeah, it's falling
yeah.
back to that safety zone.
Yeah. And emotional regulation is powerful when we get the skill set of acknowledging the emotion, naming the emotion, and allowing the emotion to process. Because emotions are part of a human existence, whether it's anger, depression, joy, sadness, whatever it
Mhm.
is. It's part of our humanness. It is a gift. Emotions are gifts.
And the energy, also, you think about it, suppressing the energy, the energy it takes to hold that down.
Mhm.
And again, that's why I call it the silent killer. It's like, I don't want to bother anybody. I'll figure it out on my own. And it just seems to snowball because it's being internalized, and then the mind and the stories get just amplified. And it's almost like a snowball, those cartoons, a snowball rolling down the hill where it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger without, sharing it or dispersing it or just letting somebody know what's
Mhm.
going on.
Mhm.
So, and again, in my case, from an athletic standpoint, I was taking energy to hold my emotions down,
Mhm.
and when I should be also be taking energy to perform my pitching. So
Mhm.
I've got a split in energy. I'm taking energy focus to hold my emotion down, to pull it together, to act like nothing's going wrong. But also, I've got to take this other energy and put it into my performance. So if I've got half my energy holding stuff down, half my energy is trying to perform, I'm giving half my effort.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's a split. The same
Mhm.
thing in my focus. And my focus is, I talk about teasing and heckling. If somebody's, I'm more concerned about what somebody's thinking of me as opposed to what my task is, then my focus is split. I'm more worried about them. Why won't they be quiet? Or why are they telling me this? Or why are they telling me that? Or I wonder what they're doing as opposed to focusing here. And I've
Mhm.
always used the example of, if you're thinking that, again, here's the awareness, self-awareness. If you're thinking of somebody else, instead of getting caught up in that vacuum of what are they thinking? Why are they thinking that? They shouldn't be thinking that way of me. Use that as a reminder, like, hey, wait a minute. Wait a minute. What am I supposed to be doing? I'm supposed to be focusing on my task, my job, not worrying about what somebody else is doing. So
Mhm.
instead of getting sucked into that rabbit hole, use it as a reminder to bounce, to come back and think, okay, here's what I'm supposed to be doing. My bathroom example, the kids I like this with emotions about stuffing it down is, imagine going the whole day without going to the bathroom.
Mhm.
That would be kind of hard.
Mhm.
And when you eventually do, it probably will come out pretty forceful.
Mhm. Mhm.
So if we don't get with those emotions, let the lid off the hot boiling water like the rice cooker, gradually, then it won't blow up.
Mhm.
And like going to the bathroom, there's probably an appropriate time and an appropriate place.
Mhm.
So I make an error out in second base. I'm not going to throw my hat and glove down. The play's still going on. That's not the appropriate time.
Mhm.
Getting with those emotions is great because now they can pass. But
Mhm.
right then and there is not the appropriate time. Just like if you're on a trip and you have to go to the bathroom, you can't go right there. You wait till you get to the rest stop or a gas station and go to the bathroom.
Mhm.
But it's gradual throughout the you're feeling it. So it's not holding it down, thinking it's not appropriate. I've got to get with these emotions and just let them go. So I'll tell coaches, I say to the kids, I say, go to the coach if you're frustrated. A lot of times the emotions build up physically.
Mhm.
So what you can do is, again, you catch, release it, you feel it, you express it, you release it. So maybe you made that error on second base. You can't throw your glove and hat down and make a big scene. Maybe you
Mhm.
scream into your glove, cover your face and scream in your glove. I've had kids, bite your glove. There's a physical sensation. Roll your shoulders, jump up and down.
Well, that
If
feels good.
yeah, if you strike out, tell the coach, I'm really frustrated right now. Instead of throwing my helmet, I'm going to sprint down to the foul line and come back. I'm going to do 10 push-ups and get that energy out of me so I can stay present. I can get back into the game. I can cheer for my teammates. I can be present. But if I'm holding out that emotion, I shouldn't be feeling this. Why am I feeling that? Why did I strike out? But the game's going on. I'm missing a part of life. So if you feel it, we all feel it, express it in an appropriate way, a safe way that you're not going to hurt yourself or hurt anybody else or hurt anything else,
Mm-hmm.
and then let it go.
Mm-hmm.
It'll just go. You'll feel like, a tense and relax, like clench your fists and then just let them go. Clench your
Yeah.
fists really, really super tight and then let them go. And you'll see how much lighter you are. And the lighter you are, the better able you're to perform.
Yeah, friends. So you know that you experience emotion, right? Like as David's talking, I'm getting all of these thoughts in my mind about, that email that I received and I read it and I thought, what the? And, that feeling that I received and how did I handle that? So emotional regulation is how do you handle it? Because anger is real, frustration's real, depression's real. These feelings and emotions, frustration, discontent, disheartened. How many of you been disheartened from all the nonsense that's happening in the world? Like those feelings and emotions are real. But in
Mhm.
order to be healthy and experience holistic wellness, David is proposing the idea of catch and release. And I believe wholeheartedly that I've said before, emotion is energy in motion. And the catch and release method allows you to feel it, acknowledge it, name it. I am feeling anxious, expressing it and releasing it. Let it go.
And some of
So,
that, just really quickly, some of that expressing and releasing it could just be in a sound, a sigh,
mm,
a grunt,
mm,
a shoulder roll, whatever it's, let it out because again, like you said, it's the emotion, energy and motion. But if it gets stuffed down, it's got to go somewhere. And it's going to
yeah,
usually, like you said, you hit the nail on the head, it's going to probably form in some sort of a dis-ease.
yeah.
It's going to work its way out some way.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So here's an example, my friends, the practice to feel, express, and release, taking a breath, naming the emotion, feeling it in your body, and letting it move. And David talked about you could just be, or maybe just move your head,
Yeah.
who knows? But you take those emotions and you utilize a strategy and a technique that works for you. Some people like to write, some people like to run, some people like to breathe, some people like to. There's so many different strategies and techniques that you can use as an individual to grow in your emotional regulation and to handle life
Mhm.
holistically, with self-love and self-compassion for yourself and for others.
I know
So,
we're kind of getting towards the end here too. So just
mhm,
a couple things to get you more present is to just quickly just put your hand on your heart and just take a few deep breaths and just
mm,
feel what you feel without naming it and just getting present.
yeah.
And it's just a great way to slow down and be. How are
Like
you
that.
being when you're doing all you're doing? If you're
Yeah.
not aware of how you're being when you're doing, then it just becomes rote or it comes out of let's say anger or frustration or obligation or resentment.
Or
Uh,
autopilot.
yeah. So my
Autopilot.
last thing is I'm going to give you a bonus tip with all this is in your awareness is being mindful of your words. A lot of the stuff I work with the athletes and people are their energy, but there's energy also too behind words. Sometimes, words can be words, but it's also the intention of how are they used and what's the energy behind it. So if you're mindful of your words, I can't, when I was writing my book, I didn't say I'm going to be writing a book. I said I am writing a book. So I was present. This is what I am doing right now. I would say, I'm writing this book. Do you know of any Major League Baseball players? Not like I'm going to, because it was just if I'm going to, it's just out of reach. So
Mm-hmm.
even being mindful of the tense of the words that I was using, I was present tense. So those sorts of things. Again, is my thinking the words I'm hearing? I even tell again clients, listen to conversations as you're watching TV. Listen to some of the conversations. How are the words they're using? You
Yeah.
know. And
Yeah.
lastly, I say my gift to you is if you want to explore more of this, there's my Calendly link. We can set up a 20-minute free discovery call. If you want more support and help around that, or if you know of anybody that's looking for more support on their B.A.S.E Foundation, definitely reach out and I'd be more than happy to talk with you.
Yeah, thank you. David, it's been such a pleasure for us to have this opportunity to go live and to talk to our friends out here on Facebook. Thank you, friends, for joining us. If you didn't get the opportunity to register and you'd like a free gift that will be a PDF on some of the strategies that we're doing, you can go to the calendar events on joyoptions.org, register, and we'll send you the follow-up on that. David, you've been wonderful. You talked to us about mindset. You talked to us about the B.A.S.E Foundation, which is
Hmm.
beliefs, actions, attitudes, and being
Acceptance,
present in
staying in
the
the moment,
moment. Hmm.
and then
And
emotional control.
he was
The emotional control.
yeah, yeah, being able to handle it. So it's been wonderful. I appreciate you. Thank you for taking part with
You're
Joy.
welcome.
Anything else you want to say to our friends that are watching us out here?
No, I just appreciate your time and everybody else for watching and taking note. And hopefully, if you can walk away with a nugget or two, that's great. And just see where it applies to your life and let me know
Yeah.
how it goes.
Thank you, friends. We hope that you have a beautiful, blessed day. Take care. Remember to follow, like, and join us for our next opportunities.
Right. Bye, everybody.